If you follow someone else's why, it might not fit for you and you find out that after a few years or a few months, you're pursuing something that you don't actually really want. Hello and welcome to a new series of videos. This is a very business-oriented series of videos. This is the first chapter and it's a series where I am telling you what I would do if I would start over my art business. If art for you is a hobby, this might not exactly be the series for you, but if you are interested in making your art a business, this might be really interesting for you. If you're not familiar with my work and this is the first video you come across, my name is Roxy. I'm an artist. I mainly paint with oil paints and I used to paint a lot with acrylic. You see behind me some canvases that I made and I focus on figurative art, very colorful, a lot of self-portraits, a lot of introspective work. But next to my personal work, I also do illustrative work, commercial work for commissions for brands, and I do live illustration work. So it's a lot of variety in where my income comes from. This first chapter will be focusing on the creative part of the business because I think that is the heart of what everything else that you're going to do. And the second chapter will be focused on money and how to organize that. This first chapter, we're starting at the core because without the creative, there's not going to be any business, at least for us creatives. You've probably heard this before, but the thing that is most important is your why. You might have heard it somewhere else, some sort of self-help, whatever, but it's actually really, really true. It's the core of your business. It's the core of why you're continuing your business, and it's pretty hard to find out in the beginning, I think. Being an artist as a profession is not really similar to getting a job and then trying it out, and then maybe you find out that you don't really like it and you're gonna do something else. In general, in the world, it's quite underappreciated. I still get asked the most question, is this something you do full-time? Can you live off it? And I think that kind of sketches the general idea people have of having art as a job. It's going to be pretty hard, especially in the beginning. Financially, it's going to be hard, but mentally it could also be quite hard because it's not a thing that is a path that most people take. It could be that after a few years trying this out, that you find out that maybe art is just a hobby for you. And that is completely fine because it takes off the stress of the money thing and it doesn't have to be a business anymore and it can still become your outlet again instead of something that you have to stress about. In this series of videos, however, we're going to assume that it is something that you want to pursue and it is something that you want to pursue successfully, whether that is full-time or whether that's part-time, because those are pretty different. And we're assuming that there is some kind of money involved. This first chapter is called Why, and that is because it is the heartbeat of what you're doing. If you do not like what you're doing and you don't know why you're doing it, something is going to give at some point in time and you're not going to enjoy it. You're gonna work towards burnout maybe, or you don't even see the point of what you're doing. So it is the basic motivation that you need to continue. Your why is going to be different from everyone else's. It takes some time to find out as well. Please don't compare it to someone else as well, because that's kind of the pitfall that I think a lot of people fall in. Like you think this is someone else's why, so it's also my why. But since creativity, I think in general, is pretty emotional. If you follow someone else's why, it might not fit for you and you find out that after a few years or a few months, you're pursuing something that you don't actually really want. There's loads of different whys. It could be that creativity is your creative outlet, it's your emotional outlet. It could also be something that you want to help others. It could also be that you just want to be recognized for your talents, and that is totally fine. I mean, I want to be recognized for my own talents. And I think it might not be the biggest motivator, but it is definitely a motivator. It doesn't have to be one thing, it could be several things, but as soon as you have that clear for yourself, I think it's much easier for yourself to decide on a path that you want to follow for years. It could also be something that's not even art related, like you want to live your life on your own terms, you want to decide on your own time, you want to take a holiday whenever you want. And I think those things might be correlated as well with being self-employed and having your own business, because those kind of go together. So if those things mix together really well, I think you're definitely on the right path. If, for example, you notice that you'd rather listen to someone else tell you what to do in a day, which is also totally fine, you might kind of go more towards client-based projects, or maybe even working for someone else in a creative job. There's probably not just one why for you, and it's good to be really honest with yourself. You don't have to share this with anyone, by the way. It's just good to have this knowledge for yourself. Maybe write it down, maybe just discover over time what it is, and keep it in mind every time you're kind of at this crossroads where you feel like you have to pick a side. You can kind of go back to your why and see what is important to you, and based on that, decide which direction to go. So if I make it personal, my why is that creativity and painting is my creative outlet. If I don't paint or if I don't create, my mind gets messy. I get these ideas, they just spill over and they become too much. So that's kind of always been like that in my head. I think that is my most important why, and that's also why I have such a big focus on personal work. Another why for me is that I want to be good at something, and this just happened to be something that I'm really good at. I like being recognized for that. I said it just before, but it's, for me, I think it's actually an important one, and it's kind of a weird one because it sounds pretty egocentric, but I think it's just honest to admit to yourself that you want to be recognized for something that you're good at. For me, it's not sports, it's not something else, it's my business, it's my art, and I want to be recognized for that. I'm also very ambitious, so I like seeing the growth in my art business, and I like seeing it doing something. And for me, that creativity needs to be at the core, because that's just what I like to be at the core. I wouldn't want to grow a business that is not related to my art, I think, because it feels very useless. So that's why those two whys kind of mix together into this perfect business for me. Another thing is that I don't want to work for someone else. I have a big authority problem, which makes me not listen to anyone else, especially that pretends to be my boss. So for me, it was very important to be self-employed and to be able to decide on my own time and to decide on what jobs I take and what energy I spend on what kind of things. And I want me to be the one that delivers the success, and I don't want it to be delivered to someone else. If I go back to 2018, which is when I started working for myself, I graduated the year before, so I had a year of doing like a side job and then figuring out that I wanted to really do this and pursue this full time. If I go back, I think it would have been good if I had figured out what my why was earlier on. I think it develops as well, so my whys now might not have necessarily been what they were in 2018, but I think it would have helped me make decisions and listen less to other people saying what my why should be, and especially what direction my work should take. I think it would have made myself more clear on long-term goals instead of just pursuing the next thing that came on my path. I wasn't in a perfect mental state at the time that I began my art career, so I don't think I would have been able to. But I guess that's just what you have to deal with, and that's just how it is. So obviously it's not going to be perfect from right when you start. It's just good that you made the start and made the beginning, and you can keep going from there. And just make it better, make it more clear for yourself. If I thought about it more, be more reflective, then I think I could have pushed myself in that right direction earlier on and kind of pick the projects that came my way in the way that I wanted to go and wanted to pursue. And that's what I also want to say to you. If you do not know your why yet, that's completely fine. As long as you keep it in mind and kind of maybe do some reflection once a month or do some reflection yearly. You know that it's in your mind and you can kind of keep it in your subconscious and do something with it. This art business is not going to be a short-term project. It is going to take years. I think in general, a business starts being profitable for about 3 years. I mean, obviously it's different for everyone, but I think with art, it takes a lot longer. Depends, of course, on what direction you're taking, but it takes quite some time to build your skill, build your art portfolio, build your clients, or not clients, maybe it's galleries, or maybe it's collectors. All those things take a long time, and I think that they take a lot longer than a general business. So if you keep that in mind and you don't know your why for the first year, whatever, that's totally fine. If you know it in the second year, maybe. If you start thinking of it in the second year, that would be really good. Just so you can take the opportunities that will take you towards what you want to do. Just keep it in mind and remember why you're doing this so you can keep going even though it's kind of hard. Now, if you're listening to this and you're thinking, I have no idea. I don't know why I do this. I know I like to paint. Well, that's a good start. That's nice. Please don't be too harsh on yourself, especially if you're just starting out. It takes some time. I mean, after 6 years actually, I'm making this video and I know a lot better what I want. But 6 years is a long time. That's like a lot of time to grow artistically, but also as a person. Emotionally, you're growing. So there's a lot of mistakes on the way. So please don't be too harsh on yourself in the start. Just keep it in mind, and it's good to know at least that it's a really important thing, because your why is why you're going to keep going. Now, the next part in this series is about what we are making.